Have you ever wondered if true emotional stability is less about drastic life changes and more about tiny shifts you barely notice? What if the path to calm isn't in monumental efforts, but in the whispers of everyday moments? Imagine healing. That's quiet, almost invisible, yet profoundly powerful. Could it be that the secret to inner balance lies not in long therapy sessions or intense retreats, but in how you simply breathe, pause, or even change your posture by just 10 degrees? These subtle shifts might just be the missing puzzle pieces you've been overlooking. What if, when life feels overwhelming, what you truly need isn't a deep insight but a gentle interruption, a small reset that tells your body, it's okay, you're safe now. Let's dive into these overlooked moments that quietly restore emotional harmony without the noise. We often assume emotional stability demands monumental efforts, months of therapy, extended retreats, deep meditation, or strict routines that overhaul our lives. But what if real transformation doesn't always come with grand gestures? What if it starts much smaller, in those nearly invisible moments, the way you lightly touch an object, the stillness you hold in a room, or a tiny shift in your stance by just 10 degrees? Healing doesn't have to be loud or obvious. Instead, it can be subtle, sensory, and almost imperceptible from the outside. Your nervous system is listening constantly, not to your goals, not to your packed calendar, but to how you move through ordinary life. It's attuned to how you pause, breathe, touch, and notice details others might miss. And when life piles on too much stress, insight alone isn't always the answer. Sometimes what you need is an interruption, a brief break in your usual patterns, a micro reset, a small gesture that quietly whispers, "We're safe now." You don't have to prepare for impact. This isn't about journaling, affirmations, or breathwork. You've heard all that before. Instead, this is about fresh, underused tools, tiny habits that restore your internal balance gently and consistently. No discipline required, no complex routines to master. Just subtle anchors that gradually shift your body and mind. These actions may seem insignificant, even strange, but they work because emotional stability isn't fueled by effort alone. It thrives on rhythm, groundedness, and how you show up for yourself when nobody's watching. Today I'll walk you through 15 micro habits that take almost no time, cost nothing, and need no special expertise, yet carry real, lasting impact. Not because they'll magically change your life circumstances, but because they help you hold your reality better. This is your invitation to create emotional steadiness, not someday in the future, not after burnout, not when things settle down, but right now through one small act at a time. For example, try rotating the direction you sleep. Sounds too simple to matter, right? Turning your bed, shifting your pillow to the footboard, or sleeping with your head facing a different wall might seem trivial. But this small adjustment can surprisingly affect your internal state. Why? Because your body is deeply connected to spatial memory. The position where you sleep gets encoded in your nervous system. The smells, the light, the angles, they're not just background noise. They act as anchors. When those anchors become tied to stress, worry, or restless nights, your mind starts associating your entire rest cycle with tension. By rotating the direction you sleep, you send a subtle signal to your brain. This is new. And in that small shift, your entire system becomes more alert, more open to calm. Continuing from the idea of small yet powerful changes, now let's explore how rotating your perspective can recalibrate your nervous system, not through anxiety, but through a subtle and gentle reorganization. Imagine you don't have to leave the room nor redesign your life. You simply change the angle, the view you see every night as you sleep. This is a nervous system reset that helps you break repetitive mental loops. When you sleep in the same position, facing the same direction, night after night, your body begins to expect that repetition, including recurring thoughts, emotions, and restless dreams. Have you noticed yourself running through the same thoughts before sleep? Those emotional spirals that keep you tossing and turning? Just by rotating your bed 90 degrees, you interrupt that pattern. You confuse the familiar script inside your mind. Your sensory system is forced to subtly reorient itself, and in doing so, you become more present, more awake to new sensations, more open to new rhythms. This is not magic. It's environmental psychology. Ancient practices like Feng Shui intuitively understood that the energy in a room shifts when you change your placement within it. Even without that framework, modern neuroscience confirms that environmental cues strongly influence emotional patterns. When those cues are disrupted, the emotional script that follows weakens, creating a moment of calm, a new breath, and a more stable internal state. So what does this look like in practice? Tonight, if your room allows, try changing your sleeping position. Rotate your bed, place your head where your feet usually rest, or switch sides of the bed. Notice how your body responds. How does your mind react? It may feel strange at first, even a bit disorienting, but that's exactly the point. That disorientation signals to your nervous system that something new is happening. And newness, when experienced safely, creates space for healing. You don't have to do this forever. One night or once a week might be enough. What matters is the intention behind it. You're not just trying to sleep better, you're resetting your internal landscape through physical change. You're telling your system, we can do this differently now. So ask yourself tonight, what if I allowed my rest to begin with something as simple as turning? What if emotional stability wasn't just about routines and structure, but about breaking subtle patterns that no longer serve me? Because sometimes the smallest shift in direction opens the door to the deepest peace. Next, start each morning by placing one small object with intention. Before you check your phone, before the noise and demands of the world reach you, try this. Choose a small item, a key, a coffee mug, a pen, a candle, a folded cloth, anything. The object itself doesn't matter. What matters is the energy you bring to the act. You're not just moving something. You're anchoring your nervous system in presence. Most of us start mornings on autopilot. Wake up, scroll, rush, forget. That rushed start sets the tone. It tells your body life is something to catch up to, not something to flow with. That's why this habit matters. Placing an object slowly, consciously, and deliberately says to your body, I am here, I am safe, I choose my pace. It interrupts not only your thoughts, but your entire physiological rhythm. Think of it this way. Your nervous system is always asking, are we safe? And it reads your cues. Frantic movement signals urgency. Stillness with attention signals safety. And the best part? You don't need to meditate, journal, or say a word. Just place the object. Let your hand move slowly. Your eyes follow. Your breath settle with the movement. Over time, this practice builds what is called sensory motor grounding. Building on the idea of grounding through small habits, let's now explore a fascinating concept: how your body learns to feel calm through simple physical interactions. It might be the touch of a ceramic cup, the placement of a metal object on a wooden countertop, or the quiet moment when you decide exactly where something belongs. This isn't about perfection. It's about intentional presence in a world designed to distract you before you even get out of bed. This habit doesn't require extra time, nor is it a task to complete. It's a transition, a way to start your day from the inside out. When you place something with care, your mind takes notice, your breath slows, and even if chaos follows later, you began with calm. That beginning shifts how everything feels. It can be as simple as placing your toothbrush on the sink with focused attention, putting your keys in a dish without rushing, or setting a small stone on your windowsill with a moment's pause. Some mornings it may feel pointless, but over time you'll feel it. A subtle shift in how you meet the day, a soft strength, a steadiness that doesn't need to shout. So ask yourself, what if my nervous system doesn't need more motivation, just more grounding? And what if emotional balance could begin with something as simple as placing one object on purpose? Because often, the way you begin is the way you continue. Next, try changing your password to a word that calms you. You type it every day, maybe multiple times, to unlock your phone, log in at work, check your email or bank, or open apps. Passwords are modern rituals, repeated countless times without awareness. But what if you transform that unconscious repetition into a moment of calm? What if instead of random letters and numbers, you typed a quiet affirmation? Something soft, grounding, personal. This isn't just a cute idea. It's a cue for your nervous system, because what you repeat and remember shapes how you feel. Imagine this. Every time you log into your laptop, you type a word like stillness and soft focus or breathe now. No one else sees it. It's just for you. But with every keystroke, your brain hears, we are safe, we are present, we are okay. That's not fluff, that's patterning. And when your day is built on hundreds of tiny patterns, even one calming anchor can shift your baseline. This practice is subtle and invisible, which makes it powerful. You're not adding a task. You're transforming an existing habit into a tool for self-regulation. It takes no extra time, no new app, no external permission, just a decision. From now on, my password won't just protect my account, it will protect my peace. Over time, typing your password becomes less mechanical and more conscious. That word quietly enters your day repeatedly, each time softly whispering to your nervous system. The Stoics often spoke about the power of repetition, but they knew it had to be intentional. Marcus Aurelius repeated core truths daily, not because he forgot them, but because reminders are medicine. You have power over your mind, he told himself. Nowhere is more peaceful than your own soul. That wasn't a lesson. It was a password he typed into his thoughts again and again. So what would yours be? Choose a word that feels safe, not forced, not performative. Something that when read in your mind or felt through your fingers, makes you breathe deeper. It could be a name, a place, a concept, or a short phrase. Add a number if needed. Building on the idea of small habits that ground us, let's take a deeper look at how simple reminders and gentle actions can transform your inner state day by day. Of course, you need to keep your password secure, but let its core reflect the state you want to live in. Because in a world that pulls you into speed and noise, every moment of intention matters. So ask yourself, if I'm going to type something 100 times a month, why not make it a message I truly need to hear? Your passwords don't just unlock accounts, they can unlock peace. Try something that might seem strange. Speak kindly to an inanimate object once a day. It may sound odd or even silly. Gently thanking your coffee mug, wishing your chair well, greeting your pen with a good day. But beneath this small, almost childlike act lies something profound, a deliberate rewiring of how you relate to your environment and to yourself. We live in a world conditioned to rush, judge, and correct. We yell at our laptops when they lag, slam cabinet doors in frustration, and toss our keys down after a long day as if they were to blame for our exhaustion. But here's the thing. How you treat the inanimate often mirrors how you treat the invisible, your thoughts, habits, body, and breath. When kindness is reserved only for people, and even then, only selectively, it becomes a scarce, guarded resource. But when extended to the smallest, quietest parts of your day, kindness becomes a way of being. Speaking to an object with care, softness, and a small smile sends a radical message to your nervous system. We are allowed to be gentle, even here, even now. Over time, this practice rewires your emotional tone, not really about the object, but about you. The Stoics believed in practicing virtue not just in thought, but in action. Epictetus taught that your habits, even the smallest ones, form the scaffolding of your character. If you want to become patient, act patiently. If you want to be kind, show kindness in every direction, even toward things that cannot respond, because it's not about being seen, but about being consistent. So what does this look like in practice? You walk into your kitchen, pour water into a glass and say, "Thank you for holding this." You sit in your favorite chair and whisper, "You've supported me more than most people ever have." You tie your shoes and say, "Let's go do something good today." Just once a day. No theatrics, no audience, just you and something still. And something inside you, something old and quiet, exhales because that object you're speaking to can't judge you. It can't mock you. It doesn't demand anything from you. It simply receives, and that teaches your body I can be soft without consequence. This also builds what psychologists call sensorial empathy, the ability to notice, appreciate, and care for what's often ignored. And when you build that muscle, it doesn't stop with mugs and chairs. It expands to you, your fatigue, your needs, your mess. You begin to meet yourself with the same kindness you gave the cup. So ask yourself, what would shift if I made gentleness a habit? Not just toward others, but toward things I never thought to honor? What would happen if my default emotional posture wasn't tension, but care? Because when you can speak gently to a table, you're teaching yourself to speak gently in silence. Building on the power of creating gentle pauses and sacred spaces, let's explore how deliberately carving out moments of stillness in your home can become a quiet act of rebellion against the world's relentless push to do more. Most homes are designed for doing. There's a place to cook, a place to work, a place to watch, a place to clean. But how much of your living space is actually built for not doing, for pausing, for breathing, for simply being without any expectation or output? In a culture that rewards constant movement and productivity, this idea might feel strange, maybe even wasteful, but it is absolutely essential. Creating a pause spot in your home isn't about aesthetics or luxury. It's about wiring your environment to support your nervous system. All it takes is one chair, one floor cushion, or a small corner by the window. That's your claim. A space where you don't work, don't plan, don't fix, but simply stop. And when you return to this spot consistently, even for just 2 or 3 minutes a day, your body begins to associate it with relief. Your nervous system relaxes and says, "Here, I can rest." This is how emotional stability builds, not just through mindset, but through ritualized space, because your body is always learning from your surroundings. You don't just react emotionally to stress, you absorb it through posture, habits, and the architecture around you. When your environment is a never-ending loop of tasks, even your breath forgets how to slow down. The Stoics might not have spoken about interior design, but they deeply understood inner architecture. They believed in retreating into themselves throughout the day. Marcus Aurelius called it retreating into the soul. He wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful than your own soul. Retreat there often." Yet in today's world, even the soul needs a physical invitation. So how do you create that? Look around. Find a space, not big, not fancy, a small step, a corner, a seat near natural light. Add one small object that grounds you, a book, a candle, a plant, a stone. No screens, no distractions. This spot doesn't have to look spiritual, but it must feel safe. Then use it, not for long, just a few minutes. Sit, breathe, do nothing. Let your shoulders drop. Let your eyes unfocus. Let the day catch up with you without any attempt to fix it. It might feel boring at first. That's okay. You're training your body to resist rushing towards stimulation, to feel safe in stillness. Over time, this spot becomes more than just a chair. It becomes a message, a practice, a home within your home, a place that says, you're allowed to stop here. You're allowed to come undone here. No need to perform in this corner. So ask yourself, where is my pause amid all this doing? Where do I simply exist? Where do I go? Not to escape, but to exhale. Because true stability isn't built through intensity. It's built through the repetition of tiny pauses like this, moments that teach your body it's safe to slow down. Use a timer, not to rush, but to focus. Most people associate timers with urgency, deadlines, pressure, the ticking clock, the countdown, the race to finish before the bell rings. But a timer, when used intentionally, can be something entirely different. Not a whip, but a container. Not a source of anxiety, but a structure that creates safety. For a nervous system stuck in overwhelm, open-ended time is often the real source of stress. You sit down to do something simple, write an email, clean the counter, check in with your thoughts, and suddenly the moment stretches out, feels heavy, endless. There's no clear start, no clear finish. So your brain resists, or worse, it spins out of control. Should I keep going? Am I wasting time? Is this enough? That's where the timer comes in. Not as pressure, but as permission. Set a timer for 5 minutes, just 5. Tell yourself, for the next 5 minutes I only have to do one thing. That's it. Not perfectly. Building on the idea of using structured time to reduce pressure and enhance focus, let's explore how dedicating a short, purposeful moment can help your nervous system relax and bring you deeper into presence. Not rushing to do everything quickly, but focusing on just one thing. And the moment the timer starts, your nervous system releases tension. It has structure, it has boundaries, and it knows this won't last forever. Ironically, this brief window often brings you deeper into presence than hours of unfocused effort ever could. The Stoics valued clarity over chaos. Epictetus taught that attention is a choice, and your task is not to control everything, but to be deliberate about what you focus on. In modern life, where thousands of things demand your mind at once, the timer becomes a sacred tool for mental protection. Let's consider some examples. 5 minutes to fold clothes, just that. 5 minutes to sit in silence. 5 minutes to engage in a creative task. 5 minutes to feel what you've been avoiding. The moment is framed. The pressure eases. Your body stops resisting. And in that focused time, something shifts. You begin to feel capable again. Not because you completed a massive task, but because you kept a small promise to yourself. And here's the magic. You can always renew the timer after those first 5 minutes. Maybe you continue, maybe you stop. Either way, you practice showing up. And for emotional stability, showing up without dread is more valuable than any productivity system. So ask yourself, what is one thing I've been avoiding because it feels too open, too big, too endless? What would happen if I gave it 5 minutes, with a timer and kindness? Because structure doesn't always mean stress. Sometimes it means freedom. And when your mind learns that time has a beginning and an end, it starts to rest within your focus again. Now, let your eyes gently trace the edges of a room. You enter a space, and your gaze jumps from object to object. Screen, light, task, distraction. That's how most of us look. Sharp, quick, reactive. But what if, instead of simply looking at things, you allowed your gaze to move with them? To trace their outlines, follow their shapes, slowly travel along the edge of a table, a curtain, a frame, or a wall, without rushing, analyzing, or labeling, just watching. This simple act, letting your eyes gently follow the edges of a room, regulates your nervous system by slowing your visual input, which slows your mental rhythm, sending a message to your brain. We are not in danger. We are simply observing. When your eyes move slowly, your brain exits fight or flight mode. When your focus softens, your thoughts follow. This is biology, not magic. Your visual field directly links to your state of arousal. Rapid darting eye. Movements often correlate with anxiety, alertness, or panic. But slow tracking, what scientists call smooth pursuit, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the same system engaged during deep rest. When practiced with intention, it becomes a signal your whole body recognizes. It's safe to calm down. This is one of those habits that seems almost too simple to matter, and yet it works every time. Not because you force yourself to feel calm, but because you offer your system the conditions where calm becomes natural, where stillness isn't demanded but allowed. The Stoics often spoke about perception. To them, how you see was as important as what you see. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that, building on the power of your gaze and how you perceive the world, let's dive deeper into the connection. Between the soul and the colors, it is dyed by your thoughts. Your soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, but those thoughts are often shaped by your gaze, by how you move through space, and how you allow the world to meet you visually. If your gaze is sharp, scattered, and hurried, your mind follows suit. But if your gaze becomes steady, slow, and deliberate, so does your presence. So next time you enter a room, your home, your office, a cafe, try this. Pause. Don't think. Simply move your eyes, pick one corner, follow the line to the next. Trace the outline of a doorway, the curve of a lamp, the shape of a shadow. You're not solving anything. You're softening your awareness. Do this for 30 seconds, maybe a minute. No rules, just visual quiet. And in that quiet, you may notice your breath deepening, your shoulders relaxing, your thoughts slowing down, because what you just gave your nervous system was relief. So ask yourself, when was the last time I let my eyes rest in observation, not obligation? What would shift in my day if I gave myself the gift of slow seeing, even just once? Because stability isn't always found through thinking. Sometimes it begins with how you look. Carry a small token that represents strength. We live so much in our minds that we forget how powerful the physical can be. But sometimes, when thoughts spiral and emotions feel overwhelming, the most effective reset doesn't come from what you think. It comes from what you hold. A coin, a small stone, a ring, a necklace, a piece of string, something worn smooth by your fingertips. Something that has weight, not just in your pocket, but in meaning. A small token that reminds you of something greater than the storm inside your head. This isn't superstition. It's somatic anchoring. It's nervous system wisdom in action. Why does this work? Because when you're overwhelmed, your thoughts often spiral into the abstract. The future, the past, the what-ifs. But touch brings you back. The nervous system responds to texture, temperature, weight. When you grip something intentionally, it pulls your awareness out of the spiral and into the now. You don't need to explain anything. You just feel. That's enough to start the reset. This is not new. Warriors used to carry talismans into battle. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius kept small objects on their person as reminders of mortality, clarity, and virtue. The Stoics understood the need for daily tools, not just lofty ideals. Seneca said, "We should keep before our eyes examples of those who have lived well, but we often forget those reminders can be physical, tactile, present." So how do you apply this? Find something small and meaningful. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to look like much to anyone else. What matters is what it represents to you. Maybe it's something someone gave you when you were at your lowest. Maybe it's something you picked up during a turning point in your life. Or maybe you choose it today for what you want it to symbolize. Strength, calm, resilience, clarity. Keep it with you, in your pocket, on a chain, on your desk. And when the pressure rises, don't just push through, pause, reach for it, hold it, feel its shape. Let it become the weight that steadies you when the world feels too loud, because this isn't about the object. It's about what you associate with it, the story it reminds you of, the strength it reflects back, the presence it reawakens. It becomes a conversation, not in words, but in sensation, building on the power of carrying meaningful tokens and grounding your awareness. Let's explore another simple yet profound way to reconnect with yourself, through your feet. So ask yourself, what could I carry with me that reminds me of who I truly am? Especially in moments when I forget. What object could become a sacred anchor, not for show but for genuine stability? Because sometimes all it takes to return to yourself is the feel of something real in your hand. In that touch, you remember you are still here and you are still strong. Now, use your feet to sense temperature. You don't need a retreat, a new meditation app, or a complex breathwork routine to reconnect with your body. Sometimes, emotional regulation begins quite literally at your feet. Take off your socks. Place your feet on the floor, whether it's cool tile, warm wood, soft carpet, or cold concrete, and pause. Don't try to feel anything specific. Just allow your nervous system to notice the shift in temperature, the texture, the contact. There's no need to name it. Simply experience it, because this small grounding moment pulls your awareness out of your head and into your body. And the body is where stability lives. When your thoughts race, your mind disconnects from the present. But your body, it's always here. Your feet serve as a direct gateway to that presence. They're sensitive, responsive, and often ignored. That's why this practice works so well. By focusing on the soles of your feet, especially the contrast of temperatures, you activate sensory awareness. This interplay of internal sensing, interoception, and external sensing, exteroception, is a natural calming mechanism your nervous system has always had. You just weren't taught to use it. The Stoics didn't specifically speak about feet this way, but they embodied this habit of awareness. Epictetus taught that control lies in how we respond, not in what happens. And how do we gain that control? By returning to the moment, returning to the body. By realizing peace isn't something to chase in your thoughts, but something you can stand in and feel rising up from the ground beneath you. This habit is especially helpful when anxiety runs high. When you feel disconnected or trapped in overthinking, the moment you truly feel the ground, really feel it, you come back. The swirling story in your mind softens. The loop slows because your nervous system has received a new grounding input. We are not floating. We are held. Try this throughout your day. When you wake up, before standing, let your feet touch the floor. Feel the texture. During work, remove your shoes under your desk for 30 seconds. Notice the contrast. Before bed, stand barefoot. Close your eyes and feel. Let the ground speak calmness into your body. This takes less than a minute. No one needs to know. It doesn't look impressive, but that's the beauty of it. It's yours. A private practice of return. A signal that you are here, not lost in the storm of thought, but grounded in the truth of sensation. So ask yourself, when was the last time I trusted my body to bring me peace? Not my intellect, not my coping strategies, just my body. Because sometimes the first step back to emotional stability is remembering that your feet are already on solid ground. Building on the grounding power of bodily awareness, let's now explore the habit of radical honesty with yourself. Even when the answers feel messy, uncertain, or incomplete, it's not that you truly don't know. It's that the answer feels tangled, unsure, unfinished, or perhaps too raw. So you shut it down before it even has a chance to form. And just like that, a part of your truth falls silent once again. But here's the thing. Your nervous system craves clarity. not perfection. It doesn't need you to have everything figured out. It needs you to feel safe enough to say something, to express a real raw answer, even if it's just "I'm overwhelmed, but I'm trying." Because when you silence your voice out of fear of being wrong, you teach your body that your truth isn't safe, and over time that becomes a deep, quiet form of instability. This is where the habit comes in. Once a day, answer one question fully without hiding behind "I don't know." It can be a simple question. How are you feeling? What do you need right now? What do you want to eat? What do you wish someone would say to you? Instead of defaulting to vagueness, pause, breathe, give your nervous system a chance to hear your own voice choose. The Stoics were radically honest, not because they had all the answers, but because they believed in practicing awareness. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations for clarity. He wrote them to find it. And that's what this habit does. It teaches your system. We are allowed to speak even in the fog. When you speak what's true, even if it's uncertain, your body relaxes. Your mind stops spinning. You step out of guessing and into grounding. The words don't need to be perfect. They just need to be real. I'm not sure what I feel, but I know I need rest. I'm frustrated, and I don't fully understand why. That's enough. That's the moment of reconnection. You can start this by writing in the mirror, speaking softly in the car, or sharing with someone you trust. Choose a question you usually avoid or brush off, and instead of shrinking from it, try to find a sentence, a beginning. Because often clarity isn't something you start with. It's something you earn by being willing to speak. And if no one is asking you questions, ask yourself, what do I need today? What's bothering me that I'm pretending isn't? Where am I not being honest with myself? Then answer gently, imperfectly, completely. So ask yourself now, where have I been using "I don't know" to avoid facing what's real? And what would happen if I trusted that my voice doesn't need to be polished? It just needs to be heard. Because every time you speak from presence instead of fear, you build emotional stability one word at a time. Choose one emotion to welcome each day. Most of us wake up and immediately brace ourselves for emails, noise, and whatever emotion hits us first. And when that emotion comes, especially if it's uncomfortable, we resist, we tense up, we try to override it with positivity or productivity. But what if instead of resisting your emotional weather, you welcomed it? This habit is simple but powerful. Once a day, name one emotion and say out loud, "Today I welcome..." That's it. No fixing, no managing. Just naming and allowing. Today I welcome calm. Today I welcome uncertainty. Today I welcome grief. Today I welcome joy. The emotion doesn't have to be pleasant, it just has to be real. Why does this matter? Because the nervous system calms when it feels acknowledged. Not solved, not corrected, not silenced, just seen. When you name an emotion and give it permission to exist, your mind stops treating it like a threat. Resistance creates more chaos. But welcome, even if whispered, creates space. It allows the feeling to rise, move through, and eventually settle. Building on the practice of welcoming emotions with respect, let's now explore the flow that creates emotional stability. The Stoics were not emotionless, they were emotionally literate. They didn't suppress their reactions. Instead, they studied and observed them. Marcus Aurelius prepared himself each morning to face annoyance, greed, and irrationality, not to resist them, but to recognize them and respond from a higher place. This habit offers you emotional leadership instead of emotional avoidance. It's not about forcing feelings you don't believe in, but about being honest with what's already present or what you're open to meeting. If you've been anxious, you might say, "Today I welcome ease." Not because you demand it, but because you invite it in. If you're heavy with emotion, you might say, "Today I welcome sadness." not to drown in it, but to let it move without shame. Say it out loud. If you can, feel how your body reacts. Often there's a softening, a sense of alignment, because the part of you that holds emotion wants one thing more than control: respect. This habit gives it exactly that. Try keeping a running list. Notice patterns. You may find yourself welcoming the same emotion repeatedly. And that's not failure, it's your system asking to be met where it is. Over time, you'll notice something else. Your tolerance increases, your clarity strengthens. Your fear softens, because what we welcome, we stop fearing. So ask yourself, what emotion have I been pushing away? What would happen if I let it sit beside me? Even for today, even for one breath. Emotional strength doesn't come from always feeling good. It comes from feeling everything and still choosing peace. Chew slowly and without distraction for one bite. It's easy to overlook. You eat every day, probably several times a day. But when was the last time you truly noticed a bite of food? Not just the taste, but the motion, the texture, the rhythm of your jaw, the pace of your breath as you swallow. We eat on autopilot, rushing, scrolling, standing, multitasking. But what if one bite, just one, became a daily anchor for emotional regulation? This habit doesn't require dieting or willpower. It's not about health, it's about presence. Once a day, pick one bite of anything: a piece of fruit, a spoonful of soup, a slice of bread, and commit to one thing. Chew it slowly with no distraction, no phone, no conversation, no scrolling, just you and the bite. Let your full attention rest on what's happening: the flavor, the texture, the sounds inside. Your mouth, the simple act of tasting without rushing. Why does this work? Because chewing slowly with presence activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode. This is the state where healing happens, where the body stops bracing and starts opening. And when you do it deliberately, your brain receives the signal. We are safe, we are nourished, there is no emergency. The Stoics believed in conscious moderation, not just for health, but for discipline of attention. Building on the practice of cultivating presence in small actions, let's explore how the simplest habits are the real battlegrounds of awareness. Epictetus taught that mindfulness can be practiced in the simplest acts: eating, speaking, walking, because those are the true arenas of consciousness, not grand gestures but everyday moments. And nothing is more familiar than chewing food daily. Yet when you chew with intention, even once, you step out of autopilot. You pause the loop of thoughts, return to your body, and meet the moment with full presence. That bite becomes a meditation, a reset, a quiet reminder that you don't have to earn peace through effort. Sometimes peace is already on your plate. You don't need to do this at every meal. You don't need to count chews. There are no rules, just the ritual: one bite, one breath, one moment of complete attention. And if it feels silly or small, good. That's the point. You're reattaching your nervous system to the fact that calm can begin with something as gentle as food. So ask yourself, when was the last time I gave myself permission to do just one thing slowly and without distraction? Could emotional stability really begin with how I chew? Because peace isn't only found in silence. Sometimes it starts with a single quiet bite. Switch the side of your bed that you get out of. You probably don't even think about it. Every morning you wake and step out of bed from the same side, same motion, same step, same stretch. And your body, mind, and emotional rhythm have memorized it. Not because it's inherently meaningful, but because routine creates emotional grooves. Some of those grooves bring calm, others bring unconscious tension, but all reinforce patterns. And here's the key. Patterns can be disrupted gently, subtly, and powerfully. This habit is as simple as it sounds. Once a day, get out of bed from the other side. That's it. But what it creates is far from small. Why does this matter? Because your brain links physical movement with emotional state. The body learns to associate location with mood, expectation, and mental scripts. If every morning you slide out of bed groggy, rushed, slightly anxious, always moving the same way, that motion becomes an unconscious trigger for that same emotional tone. It's the first domino in a cascade of stress. But change the path even by a step, and your mind wakes up, not in panic but in curiosity. It says, wait, this is new. And in that moment of micro-awareness, you're not just shifting physically, you're creating a new entry point to the day. A chance to ask yourself, how do I want to move differently through the next few hours? The Stoics believed in awareness through interruption. Seneca reminded us that an unexamined life is not only unwise but unfree. Every time you act without noticing, you live by habit, not by choice. But when you change something as small as how you leave the bed, you regain a few seconds of consciousness, and those seconds can set the tone for everything that follows. Think of this not as a rule, but as a game. Switch sides, climb over, roll to the other edge. Make it clumsy if you have to, but feel it. Notice how your body moves differently. Notice how your feet land. Notice the part of your mind that wants to correct you, and ask it why. Because the more you learn to welcome disruption, the less your emotional balance depends on comfort or repetition. You build flexibility, mental elasticity. You train your system to adapt instead of just perform. Building on the power of creating gentle rhythms your nervous system understands. Ask yourself, what emotional patterns have I been reinforcing just by moving the same way through my mornings? What might change if I altered one small motion and used that as a fresh start? Sometimes emotional stability doesn't require a new mindset. It just requires a new step. Try tracing a circle with your finger for 30 seconds. When your mind races and your body tightens, instinctively you try to think your way out. You analyze, argue with yourself, rehearse outcomes, scroll, distract. But what your nervous system truly craves in those moments isn't logic or explanation. It craves rhythm, something simple, predictable, repetitive. And nothing is more ancient, primal, and calming than circular motion. This habit is deceptively simple. Take one finger and slowly trace a circle on your palm, your thigh, a table, a page anywhere. Do this for 30 seconds, no goal, no meaning, just the shape. Why does this help? Because circular motion is a self-soothing pattern, recognized even in infancy. Babies rock, trace, spin objects. It's instinct, a nervous system regulation tool baked into the body. As adults, we forget this. We trade it for stimulation, solutions, control. But the nervous system doesn't evolve away from rhythm. It still wants the same thing, a reason to slow down, a feeling that says, all is well. When you trace a circle, your breath deepens. Your mind stops trying to get ahead. Your body feels the return, the repetition, the gentle loop. It doesn't demand attention, it invites it softly, safely. There's no magic in the shape itself. The magic is in the return. The motion with no end, no edges, no sharp angles, no finish line. Just one motion again and again until tension melts away from your shoulders and your brain stops scanning for danger. The Stoics spoke of cyclical thinking, the rhythm of nature, the turning of seasons, the repetition of day and night. They reminded themselves that life flows, and when we resist that flow, we suffer. But when we move with it, we stabilize, and this small circle, your finger tracing a shape, is a micro-practice in moving with life. You don't force it. You let it guide you back into the now. Try it anywhere, in meetings, under the table, in bed when thoughts won't stop, in line when impatience rises, in silence just to feel yourself present. You may notice a wave of calm, not always big, but steady, and you'll begin to build trust with your body again. not through thinking your way into peace, but moving your way into it. So ask yourself, what would change if I gave my nervous system the kind of rhythm it truly understands? Could peace be as simple as slowly tracing a circle with care for no reason at all? Because the shape doesn't need meaning. It just needs motion, and sometimes that's all you need too. End the day with one sentence you wish someone had told you. We end our days surrounded by silence, but not always peace. The lights dim, the noise slows, and what remains is often a soft ache. The unspoken things, the support we didn't receive, the encouragement no one offered, the warmth we craved, but never heard aloud. And rather than admit that longing, we scroll, we distract, we sleep with the weight still there. But what if healing began not by erasing that ache, but by answering it ourselves? This final habit is deeply personal and profoundly simple. Before bed, speak one sentence out loud that you wish someone had told you today. That's it. One line. You did enough. Building on the power of speaking kindness to yourself, remember, you don't have to carry this alone. You are seen. I'm proud of you. You're not pretending. You're not faking connection. You're giving your nervous system what it often lacks most: unconditional validation. And when that sentence is spoken in your own voice, even softly, even awkwardly, your brain registers it as real. Your body hears it. Your heart exhales. Because sometimes what wounds us isn't just what happened, it's what was never said. This isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about forcing affirmations you don't believe. It's about reaching into the quiet and offering yourself what the world forgot to give you. And in that gentle gesture, in that whispered phrase, you begin to reparent the parts of you still waiting. The Stoics didn't speak in emotional language like we do today, but they deeply understood the power of inner dialogue. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself every night, not because he had no one else, but because his relationship with his own soul was the most sacred. He reminded himself of strength, reason, and value. He didn't wait for the world to tell him. He told himself because he needed to hear it, and so do you. So tonight, don't let the day end in silence. Before you turn off the light, before your thoughts drift into the unknown, say it. The sentence. You needed the one no one gave you, not because you were unworthy, but because they were unaware. Say it softly. Say it for you. So ask yourself now, what would I most want to hear tonight if someone truly saw me? Then say it, and say it like you mean it, because that voice, yours, can become the most powerful source of comfort you'll ever know. And with that, let the day end, not with emptiness, but with honor. You don't need to wait for a breakdown to begin healing. You don't need a retreat in the mountains, a radical transformation, or a perfect morning routine. You just need moments, small, deliberate, quiet moments that remind your body we are safe now. Because emotional stability isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you cultivate one habit at a time. Not through force, but through rhythm. Not through intensity, but through intention. Every habit you heard in this episode is tiny by design. So small you could dismiss it, so subtle you might forget it. But each one carries weight, not in how big it looks, but in what it whispers to your nervous system. We don't need to rush. We don't need to explain. We are allowed to slow down, to feel, to return. You see, healing doesn't shout, it repeats. It shows up in circles, in pauses, in how you chew, in which foot touches the ground first. It's how you move your hands when no one's watching. It's the tone you use with yourself at the end of the day. It's what you welcome and what you finally allow yourself to release. So don't chase stability. Build it gently, quietly, daily. And if this episode helped you, share it with someone who feels like their inner world has been too loud for too long. Someone who deserves peace that doesn't require perfection. Someone who's learning, like you, to come home to themselves in the smallest ways possible. Because The most powerful habits are the ones no one sees but you always feel.